What's up, gangsters? How about a little random? Okay, so some cool things for this installment of the random. The Spitfire is all primered up and even has some MRP Super Silver on it in preparedness for painting. I did finally get all of my nose issues resolved, and I think it looks pretty good. I think after giving it some thought that what I've concluded is that I kind of shot myself in the foot by trying to make things as good as possible, which, isn't that the way it goes? I think that Tamiya has basically allowed for a certain amount of gap in all four of the joints around the nose on this thing. And by making this one right here as nice and tight as I did, if I can get the angle right so that you can see just how nice and tight it is. Yeah, see how nice and tight that is? Yeah, I think that what I did by making that fit so closely is that I essentially opened up all of the other gaps, which kind of fits perfectly with the fact that the right side cowling panel here was a little too small all the way around. So anyway, it is what it is. It's not perfect. You can kind of see there's still a little bit of a step right there, and it's not as good as I'd like for it to be, but I think it's as good as anything else I've seen online, and it's also about as good as I'm going to be able to get it. So it is what it is. I've already wrapped up a tremendous amount of time dealing with that, and between that issue and the details on the engine and in the cockpit, that's literally like half the hours I've spent on this thing. So anyway, it is what it is. Before anybody asks, because I know somebody will, that stand right there is called the Flight Pose stand, and those things are super cool. Very useful for exactly this sort of thing. So what I started to turn my attention to in the meantime was, instead of whatever, anyway, turned my attention to some other things because I want to take a break from the Spitfire. So I've gone back to my Stompy Robot vignette, and that means working on what was originally going to be a burnt out little car. I quickly decided, well, not quickly, but after lots of debating with myself, decided that it was not going to be a burnout because there was just going to be too much scratch building. And you'll see a little bit more why here in a second, but look at this. I swear, car kits are just terrible. I just don't get it. I mean, the outside of this little Mini Cooper body is pretty good. The detail's nice. It's well-shaped, well-scaled. But look at the look at the gap between the dashboard and the front of the car, and then look at it on the sides and back there, by the back window. And then look, this is not a matter of me doing it wrong because there's pretty much only one way this thing can go together, as you'll see here in a second. When you pop these little clips off and release the body from the thing, I mean, there's just not any other way to do it. And it's a pretty simple assembly there. It just fits on a couple of little posts that are on this chassis piece. Anyway, you can see that for me to turn this into a burnout that really, I think would have looked authentic, I was going to have to basically rebuild this entire tub to represent what would be left, just sheet metal after all the upholstery and stuff got burned off. So what I decided to do was just make it like a derelict that's just been sitting around for, 50 or 100 years or whatever, and it's just, got a lot of peeling upholstery and paint and plastic, and it will be probably, most of this is probably all honestly going to get covered up because there's going to be a pretty heavy layer of collected dirt and filth inside there. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on there. It's not a bad looking little interior. I mean, the detail is soft. The fit was really horrible on some of the parts, like between this dashboard piece and this other dashboard piece that's got all the gauges and stuff on it. The fit was pretty bad. I don't know. It's car kits. I don't know what to say. They suck. At least in my experience, they all do. Also, you guys know that I had been having some parts for my 1/6 Honda Monkey done with 3D printing, stuff that I had developed on my own using Fusion 360. And most of those parts have been really good. John Geigel at Masterpiece Models done a really nice job making those parts for me on his Formlabs Form 2 SLA printer. But a lot of people have been talking about this newer machine called the Anycubic Photon, and it's a little bit of a different technology. It's still an SLA machine. It still uses resin, still builds layer by layer, but rather than using layers, they basically use an LCD screen to create masks, and they shine the UV light through the mask so that it does the entire layer at once. And that brings the cost of the thing down tremendously, and the size as well. The Anycubic Photon is literally the size of a blender. You can have it sitting on your desktop. And I have been seeing some really, really amazing parts. I showed you guys the little detail parts, the spark plugs, and the tubing fittings from Tom Ennis at Ennis Model Products. And he's just been doing some amazing stuff. So anyway, I thought I would see what somebody could do with the designs that I had created for my Honda Monkey project. And I've gotten those here, and they're just every bit as dope as I expected. I mean, look at the resolution on that. This is a shock body, and this, I'm just so impressed. This is the throttle, twist grip throttle, that will go on the handlebar, and you can see all the nice detail there. I mean, even without having any primer on it, you can see just how good they are. The surface finish on these is just fantastic. I mean, look at that. The top surface of those might as well be machined. It's so smooth and flat, which is pretty interesting to me because normally the thing that most people want to do with these SLA resin machines is build stuff at an angle. It has to do with the way that the layers of resin are cured. It's in a vat of liquid as it's working, and there's just something about the way that the whole process happens that makes it where building at an angle is just more effective. But that can result in some inaccuracies with the parts because obviously these circular features, for example, if you tilt it over, now they sort of become ovals and they can become a little bit distorted. So it's nice if you can build stuff in its natural orientation. And he was able to do that with these, and they turned out fantastic. So I am really stoked. I mean, even the holes in the sides of those parts are really, really good. So I'm pretty fired up about these, and I'm ready to get back to the Honda Monkey project with them and see what I can get done there. Okay, very quickly, I want to show you guys something. This will probably end up taking a little too much time, but the subject of the Infini cutting mats has come up a couple of times lately. And this is one of my all-time favorite tools. I love this thing so much. And I'm going to show you real quickly why that is. But just to be clear, some people are confused about how this works. These are grooves. Okay, and those are there to guide your knife blade so that you can make really nice cuts and that lets you cut strips of tape to any size you want with nice square ends. Now, you might say, well, why is that any better than just using a ruler? Well, for one thing, it's a lot faster, a lot more accurate, and you can, like I said, you can cut a bunch of little patches of tape very quickly. And here's the real beauty of it for me, is you can leave them stuck to this cutting board so that you've always got a supply of these little patches. And this works really good for what I call piecemeal or patchwork masking. So let's say that I want to mask off this little rectangular thing right here. I don't know exactly what size that is. I don't want to measure it. I don't want to try and cut a piece of tape that's exactly the right dimensions to fill in this little square space here. I could, at least in theory, put a piece of tape that covers the whole thing, burnish it down, and then use a blade to cut around by following the panel line. It's the same principle as using these grooves. But I don't have to. It's even simpler than that, because with a bunch of these little patches stashed here on my cutting board, I can just start grabbing them with my tweezers. And I'm not going to do this perfectly because I don't have time and I don't have my Optivisor on. But there's one. All right, now I'm going to grab another one, and you should be able to see where I'm going with this already. Now I just take it with this other one and I come and put it on the other side, and obviously you can do a better job of this than I am, but there, now I've filled in that much of the area with two pieces. Doesn't matter if they're the exact right size or not, because they can overlap. And trust me when I say this, that little double thickness of tape right there where they overlap is not going to screw you up in any way. So I think you can see how doing that is just a much quicker and more effective way for doing certain little masking tasks that would otherwise be a real pain in the ass. So anyway, that is definitely a little bit more than 10 minutes, but I felt like that was a good thing to show you guys because it might not be an intuitive thing. Trust me, this gizmo right here is well worth the whatever 10 or 15 bucks that it costs you, and you can get them at Hobby World USA. All right, that's it. Bye.